Have you ever felt like everything in your life was perfectly set, only for it to be ripped away by someone you never expected? What would you do if the one person who was supposed to stand by you betrayed you? But here's the twist: what if you didn't need anything material to feel like you were enough? Let me tell you a story that will make you rethink how you see yourself, your relationships, and what truly defines your worth. I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll understand the true meaning of confidence, and it's not what you think. Stick around because this story is about to get real, and trust me, you'll want to see how it unfolds. Imagine this: you're getting ready for one of the biggest days of your life. It's not just any day, it's the day you've been planning for months. The dress you've picked out is not just a dress, it's a symbol of everything you've dreamed of. Every detail matters: the fit, the fabric, the way it makes you feel when you wear it. It's your moment. But then, in a twist that feels like it's straight out of a drama series, your own sister, yes, your sister, decides she's going to take your dress. You know, the one you've been saving for the perfect occasion. You've envisioned it for weeks, maybe even months, and now, it's gone. Just like that. And the worst part? She doesn't even ask. She just takes it. How would you feel? Angry? Betrayed? Confused? You see, this isn't just about a dress. This is about trust, boundaries, and the way people we love sometimes hurt us the most. It's a test of character, a test of patience, and a test of what we choose to do in the face of betrayal. But here's where it gets interesting. This story is about what happens next. Because you might expect that our heroine is devastated, maybe even heartbroken. She could fall apart. She could cry, scream, or just give up. But what she does instead is what will change everything. She decides to wear something different, something more powerful than any dress could ever be. She wears confidence. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, so she puts on a new outfit and moves on with her life, right? Not so fast. This isn't a typical story of revenge or just walking away. No, this is a story about taking what was taken from you and using it to become stronger. It's about reclaiming what you didn't think you could ever get back. And trust me, by the end of this story, you're going to see why what she wears isn't nearly as important as what she feels inside. But before I get into the details, I want you to think about this. Have you ever been in a situation where someone close to you took something that was deeply important to you? Maybe it wasn't a dress, maybe it was trust, respect, or even a chance you were waiting for. What did you do? Did you let it define you? Did it make you question your worth? Or did you rise above it, choosing to fight back in a way that no one could have expected? This is the essence of our story today. So stay with me, because I'm about to take you on a journey of revenge, redemption, and self-discovery. You're going to want to hear every word of this, because the answer to the question you're all wondering, what happens when her sister takes her dress, is going to shock you. The real lesson, though, is what happens next. You don't want to miss how this story ends. Are you ready to find out how confidence turned the tables in a way no one could have ever predicted? Stick around, because this is where the journey really begins, and trust me, it's going to be one you'll never forget. But here's the catch: you won't get the full picture until we go deeper. How did she find the strength to stand tall, despite everything falling apart? What did she do when she was forced to confront the person who took away her moment? And most importantly, how did confidence, true, unwavering confidence, become her secret weapon? These are the questions that will leave you hanging on the edge of your seat. So, are you ready for the answer? Keep watching, because the real story is the morning of the event had started out like any other. The sun filtered through the windows, casting a soft golden glow that made everything seem calm and peaceful. But for our main character, let's call her Emma, the calm was an illusion. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of preparations. She'd been tirelessly working to put everything in place for the event of a lifetime, a milestone birthday celebration for her mother, a gathering of family and friends, a day that was supposed to be perfect. It wasn't just a family event, it was a personal one for Emma, too. She had made it her mission to look her best, to finally feel like the woman she'd always wanted to be, confident, poised, and powerful. And that dress, the one she had chosen with such care, was more than just fabric. It was the statement of who she had become in the past year. A symbol of growth, self-love, and resilience after months of battling self-doubt and insecurities. It wasn't about impressing anyone else, it was about feeling strong in her own skin. But all of that had changed when she entered her room that morning to find her dress missing. Gone. Nothing but an empty hanger left behind, mocking her with its absence. At first, Emma couldn't even process what had happened. Her first instinct was to search the room, as if it had simply wandered off on its own. But then, slowly, the truth began to sink in. Her sister, who had always been a little unpredictable when it came to matters of fashion, had taken it. And not only had she taken it, but she'd also left behind a note that was intentionally vague, almost cryptic, as if she had wanted to confuse Emma rather than explain her actions. The note read, "I hope you don't mind. It's just one day, after all. You'll be fine." It wasn't signed, but Emma didn't need to see a name to know who it was from. Her sister, Olivia, had a way of doing things like this, always taking what wasn't hers without a second thought, always pushing boundaries in ways that left others questioning their own sanity. Emma had always been the responsible one, the one who thought things through, while Olivia had been, well, more of a free spirit, often making impulsive decisions that had a way of throwing everything into chaos. But taking Emma's dress, this felt different. This wasn't just another one of Olivia's random acts of rebellion. No, this was calculated. Emma could feel it in her bones. But why? Why would her sister sabotage her on a day that was supposed to be so important to her? Emma tried to put it out of her mind, to focus on the bigger picture. But the frustration bubbled up inside her as she thought about the countless times Olivia had crossed the line. It wasn't just the dress. It was the way Olivia had a tendency to always insert herself into Emma's moments. When Emma had started dating Mark, someone she had truly cared about, Olivia had made a play for him, trying to charm him, constantly getting in the way of their relationship until Emma had to confront her about it. It wasn't just that Olivia wanted attention, she needed it, craved it, in a way that made Emma wonder if her sister even knew what it was like to step back and let someone else shine. But now, with the dress gone and the event just hours away, Emma couldn't afford to get caught up in the drama of it all. She had to make a choice. Was she going to let this minor act of sabotage derail everything she had worked for, or was she going to rise above it and show everyone, including herself, that she didn't need the perfect dress to feel worthy? Still, as the hours ticked by, the feeling of being played, of being manipulated, gnawed at her. It wasn't just Olivia's actions that bothered her, it was the strange timing of it all. Olivia had always been a little unpredictable, sure, but something about the way she took the dress, without explanation, without warning, felt more like an attack than a mistake. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deeper behind this. Was it just jealousy? Or was Olivia trying to send a message, one that Emma wasn't sure she was ready to understand? As Emma tried to piece it all together, a few details stood out. The night before, Olivia had been unusually quiet at dinner, almost too calm, as if she were waiting for something to happen. Emma had noticed that Olivia had been acting strangely for weeks now, distant, withdrawn, as though she had something on her mind that she wasn't ready to share. Could this be part of some larger plan? Had Olivia been working up to this moment for longer than Emma had realized? The thought of it made her stomach turn. But then again, could it be something else? Could there be other factors at play here that Emma was overlooking? Was someone else involved in this sabotage? As the day wore on, Emma started to wonder if Olivia was just a red herring, a convenient scapegoat to distract her from the real problem. Could someone else have orchestrated this? Someone who had a vested interest in seeing Emma fail, in watching her fall apart? As much as she hated to admit it, the idea of betrayal from unexpected places started to creep into her mind. What if the person who had taken her dress wasn't just someone she had an uneasy relationship with, but someone she had trusted, someone who, until now, had always seemed to have her back? The more she thought about it, the less certain she became about who to trust. Could her best friend, Rachel, have been involved? Rachel had been acting strangely lately, almost like she knew more than she was letting on. The way she had kept giving Emma these odd looks, the way she had sidestepped certain conversations, made Emma wonder if Rachel might be hiding something. Could she have taken the dress? Was there something deeper brewing in their friendship that Emma hadn't seen before? The clock was ticking, and the event was drawing closer. Emma knew she had to make a decision. Should she confront Olivia head-on and demand the truth, or should she take a step back and approach the situation from a different angle? But as she stood there, staring at the empty hanger, she realized that no matter what, this was more than just about a dress. It was about reclaiming her power, her confidence, and her ability to stand tall in the face of adversity. And she was about to learn that the biggest test of all wasn't how she dealt with her sister, but how she would rise above the manipulation and reclaim her sense of self-worth. What happened next would change everything. Emma wasn't just fighting for a dress anymore, she was fighting for something far more valuable. But who was she really up against? Was it her sister, her friends, or was it something deeper? Stick around to find out, because this story is far from over, and the real twist is still to come. As the day wore on, Emma's frustration only grew. She had been pacing back and forth in her room, trying to think clearly. She knew she needed answers, but with every passing minute, the walls felt like they were closing in. She needed to confront Olivia, there was no avoiding it. But deep down, Emma feared that the truth might be more complicated than she could imagine. She had been so sure that Olivia was behind this, but as the tension in the air thickened, doubt started creeping in. It was almost as if someone was actively trying to stop her from getting to the bottom of it. The more she tried to piece the puzzle together, the more things slipped out of her grasp. Then, it happened. Just when Emma thought she might be on the verge of an answer, a key piece of evidence disappeared right from under her nose. The note, the one Olivia had left behind, the one that had been the only lead she had, was gone. She could have sworn she left it on her desk. She had even shown it to her best friend, Rachel, earlier in the day, and Rachel had been just as perplexed by it as Emma was. But now, the note was nowhere to be found. Emma rifled through her room, checked every drawer, and even looked under the bed, but it was as if it had vanished into thin air. Panic surged through her chest, and she suddenly felt like she was being watched. It was a gut-wrenching sensation, the kind that made her feel as though someone had been one step ahead of her this entire time. The absence of the note left her with an eerie feeling, as though she was being led down a path she wasn't meant to follow. What kind of person would go to such lengths to keep her from uncovering the truth? Was it Olivia? Or was there someone else pulling the strings? Emma's mind raced, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story than she realized. Something felt off, and she couldn't quite put her finger on it. Just as she was starting to lose her grip on the situation, a text message flashed on her phone, cutting through the silence. It was from Rachel. "Stop digging, Emma. Just let it go." At first, Emma thought it was a joke, maybe a bit of dark humor from her friend who had been with her through thick and thin. But then, as she read it again, she could feel the weight of those words sink in. Stop digging. What did that even mean? Rachel had always been supportive, always the voice of reason in their friendship. Why would she suddenly tell her to back off now? Was it because she knew something Emma didn't? Or had Rachel just gotten too close to the situation herself? Her hands shook as she stared at the screen. The words were haunting, like a warning. Was Rachel trying to protect her? Or was she trying to keep her in the dark? The more Emma thought about it, the more she realized how little she really knew about Rachel's life. Sure, they had been friends for years, but over time, things had shifted. Rachel had started acting distant in ways Emma hadn't noticed until now. Sometimes, it was the little things, the way Rachel had avoided certain topics, the way she would always change the subject when Emma asked her about her past. But lately, it felt like there were things Rachel wasn't telling her, secrets buried deep beneath the surface. What was she hiding? Emma couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling that Rachel might be more involved in this than she was letting on. Could she have taken the dress? Or was she trying to protect someone else? It seemed unlikely, after all. Rachel had been Emma's best friend since childhood. But as the pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place, the more Emma wondered if she'd been wrong about Rachel all along. What if Rachel had been keeping tabs on Emma's every move, watching from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? Was she truly the loyal friend Emma thought she was, or was she part of something much darker? The idea that Rachel might be involved sent a chill through Emma's spine, but she wasn't ready to give up just yet. She had to know the truth. With the note gone and Rachel's cryptic text weighing heavily on her mind, Emma set out to find more answers. She decided to confront Olivia after all. The trail still led back to her sister, and she couldn't shake the feeling that Olivia was hiding something. But as Emma prepared to face her sister, she received another unexpected obstacle. Olivia, who was always just a phone call away, suddenly wasn't answering. Emma tried calling her multiple times, texting her, even stopping by her place, but there was no response. It was as if Olivia had disappeared off the face of the earth. Desperation began to settle in. Was Olivia avoiding her? Was she scared of what Emma might find? Or was something else going on, something deeper than a stolen dress? Emma's head was spinning, and she felt more and more like she was caught in the middle of a web she couldn't untangle. What if there was something about Olivia that Emma had never known? What if her sister had a secret past, one that had been hidden all these years? Could it be that Olivia was hiding more than just a missing dress? The deeper Emma dug, the more she realized she was only scratching the surface. There were hidden layers to this story, things that people weren't saying, secrets that no one wanted to bring to light. Was Rachel involved in this? Had Olivia's disappearance been planned? Or was there a third player in this game, someone even closer to Emma than she could have ever imagined? The more she tried to uncover, the more pieces of the puzzle slipped away, leaving her with more questions than answers. The night had fallen heavy and thick, the kind of night where everything seemed to echo in the silence, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Emma sat at her desk, her mind racing, unable to escape the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The messages, the phone calls, the cryptic warnings, they were all part of something much larger than a missing dress or a petty act of sabotage. It was like a shadow had fallen over her life, and no matter how hard she tried to shake it, the weight of it was suffocating. Every creak of the house, every shift in the air, felt amplified, like the world itself was closing in on her. She glanced at her phone again, the screen lighting up in the dark room. Another text message. Her hands trembled as she unlocked it, already dreading what it might say. But it wasn't just another warning this time. This one was different, more direct, more ominous. The message simply read, "If you keep digging, it's not just you who'll pay the price. Watch your back." Her breath caught in her throat, the words hanging in the air like a death sentence. Emma's heart pounded in her chest as her mind spun in circles. Who could it be? Was it Olivia, trying to scare her? Or someone else entirely? The sense of dread that had been creeping over her for days suddenly felt real, like she was no longer just dealing with games and mind tricks. This was something else, a real threat, something she couldn't ignore anymore. And then, as if the universe had decided to turn her fears into reality, something happened that made the threat all too real. There was a knock at the door. It was soft at first, almost like a whisper, but the suddenness of it made Emma's blood run cold. She hadn't been expecting anyone. She wasn't expecting to hear a sound at all in the stillness of the night. Her first instinct was to ignore it, to tell herself it was just the wind, or maybe some passerby, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was horribly wrong. She stood frozen, unable to move, unable to even breathe, listening for any sound that would explain what was happening. Another knock came, louder this time, a thud that shook the doorframe. "Emma," a voice called out softly from the other side. It wasn't Olivia's voice, not Rachel's either. It was a voice she didn't recognize, but it had the cold, deliberate tone of someone who had been watching, waiting. "Let me in. You're not safe out there alone." Emma's pulse quickened. Her eyes darted to the window, then to the front door, but she couldn't move. Fear had completely paralyzed her. Should she answer it? Should she risk opening the door to whoever was on the other side? What if it was someone trying to lure her out into the open, someone who knew exactly what they were doing? Before she could gather her thoughts, the voice continued, lower now, almost a whisper. "You've been warned. You're in danger. Let me in, Emma. You can't protect yourself from what's coming." That was when the doorbell rang, piercing the quiet, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps retreating down the hallway. Emma stood there, still, listening for any sign of who it could be, trying to piece together what was happening. She didn't know who to trust anymore. Who could be behind this? Was it someone close to her? Or was it a complete stranger, someone who had been stalking her, waiting for the right moment to make their move? Her heart raced as she tried to calm herself, forcing herself to think clearly. The phone, the mysterious message, and now this, it was all too much. The fear she had been pushing aside, the sense of unease that had been building inside her for days, now fully gripped her. The realization settled in slowly, almost like a dark cloud suffocating her thoughts. She wasn't just dealing with a petty act of sabotage. Someone wanted to hurt her. Someone had been watching her every move, and they were closing in. She glanced over at Rachel's phone, still sitting on the table. It felt wrong to reach for it, like she was inviting more danger into her life, but she couldn't stop herself. She needed answers, needed to understand what was happening. She had to hear Rachel's voice, needed to know if her best friend was okay. She dialed her number, her fingers shaking as the phone rang. It rang once, twice, and then nothing. The line went dead, and Emma's stomach twisted with anxiety. Was Rachel okay? Had she been involved in something darker than Emma realized? Had she been taken, or worse, was she part of a bigger plan to keep Emma from the truth? The more she thought about it, the more it seemed like everything, her sister, her friends, the cryptic warnings, was connected to something larger than she had ever imagined. Emma grabbed her jacket and dashed out the door, her heart pounding in her chest. The night air was cold, biting, but she didn't care. She had to find Rachel. She had to know if her friend was all right. The darkness felt suffocating, the quiet only amplifying the sound of her breath as she hurried down the street. As she reached the corner of the block, she froze. In the distance, she saw a figure, a silhouette standing still, watching her. It was too far away to make out any details, but Emma could feel her blood run cold. Whoever it was, they were waiting for her. She didn't stop. She turned and sprinted back toward her house, fear now taking over her every movement. She could hear footsteps behind her, and the more she ran, the louder they became. They were getting closer. Whoever had been watching her wasn't just observing anymore, they were coming after her. Emma burst through the front door, slamming it shut behind her, her breath ragged as she locked the deadbolt. Her hands shook violently as she scanned the room. She was alone. No sign of anyone following her, but she knew it didn't matter. They were out there. They were watching. And then, as if to prove her fears right, her phone buzzed again. A single text message, chillingly simple. "You're not alone anymore, Emma. You never have been." Her skin crawled as she read the words. She wasn't sure what was more terrifying, the fact that someone had been watching her all this time, or the fact that she hadn't even noticed. The tension in her chest was unbearable now. Emma wanted to scream, to break down and cry, but she couldn't afford to. There was no time for fear, no time for panic. She had to act. But where could she turn for answers when everyone around her seemed like a suspect? Who could she trust? Was there anyone she could turn to, or was she truly alone in this nightmare? The urgency, the rising sense of danger, hung in the air like a storm about to break. Emma had no choice but to fight back, but she had no idea who she was even fighting against. The house was silent. The kind of silence that felt unnatural, like it was pressing in from all sides, suffocating the air with an unspoken tension. Emma paced the floor, her thoughts swirling in a vortex of confusion and fear. She had barely gotten a wink of sleep since that strange knock at the door, since the cryptic messages began flooding her phone. Every possible explanation she'd entertained seemed to fall apart as soon as she looked deeper. She thought she knew what was happening, that someone was messing with her, maybe even trying to scare her into submission. But now, with every new twist and turn, her certainty was dissolving. Something bigger, something more sinister was at play here, and Emma was caught in the middle of it. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden ring from her phone. Emma's heart skipped a beat, her fingers trembling as she picked it up. It was Rachel. For the first time in hours, her heart felt like it had finally found something to latch onto. Her friend was alive, she was safe. At least, that's what Emma hoped. The call picked up, but what came next was far from what Emma expected. "Emma, I need you to listen to me," Rachel's voice came through, shaky and strained. There was something different in her tone, something Emma had never heard before. It was like Rachel was holding back tears, or maybe fear. "I don't know how to say this, but I think I've been part of this from the very beginning. And I've been lying to you." Emma froze. The words didn't make sense. What was Rachel talking about? She had to have misunderstood. Rachel, the person she trusted most in the world, was involved. But why? What was she hiding? The shock made Emma's stomach lurch, but she steadied herself, forcing her voice to stay calm, even as panic clawed at her insides. What do you mean you've been lying? Rachel, what is going on? Who's behind all of this? Emma asked, her voice tight with tension. There was a long pause before Rachel spoke again, the words coming out in a slow, reluctant breath. It's my sister, Emma. Olivia. She's been planning all of this for months. The dress, the messages, the threats, it's all been orchestrated by her. I don't know everything, but I do know this much. She's been using me, manipulating me the entire time. And now, she's involved in something much bigger. Something dangerous. Emma's mind raced, trying to process what Rachel was saying. Olivia. Her sister. It didn't make sense. Olivia had always been the golden child, the one who seemed to have it all together. The idea that she was behind the chaos Emma had been facing was unfathomable. But Rachel's voice, the desperation in it, made Emma realize that maybe she had been wrong about everything. All this time, she'd thought she knew who the villain was, who was trying to sabotage her life. But it wasn't just one person, this was a carefully crafted game, and the stakes were much higher than she could have imagined. You're telling me Olivia planned this? Emma's voice barely reached a whisper, the weight of the revelation crashing down on her. But why? What does she want? I don't know the full picture, Rachel replied, her voice trembling. But I think she's been in contact with people we don't know. There's something happening that goes far beyond just a missing dress or petty revenge. Emma, I'm scared. I think Olivia's caught up in something. I don't even know how to explain it. But I know she's not the person you think she is. The words hit Emma like a tidal wave, leaving her breathless. Rachel had been in on this. She had known all along and hadn't told Emma. But more than that, if Olivia was behind everything, if she was orchestrating this twisted game, then what had Emma truly been fighting against? A missing dress. Or something darker, more calculated. Everything about the situation suddenly felt different, like she had been playing checkers while everyone else was playing chess. Emma tried to think, tried to find some logical thread, but it was like the pieces kept slipping away. And just as she was about to respond, there was a knock at the door. Emma's blood ran cold. It wasn't the same soft knock from before, it was more insistent, demanding. She knew, deep down, that whoever was on the other side wasn't there to chat. This was it. The tension had reached its peak, and whatever was about to happen next was going to change everything. Emma, don't answer the door, Rachel said urgently, her voice cracking through the static of the phone line. Listen to me. You're in danger. There's more going on than just Olivia. But it was too late. The door swung open on its own, and standing in the frame was not just a figure from the shadows, but someone Emma recognized. Her heart stopped. It was Olivia. But not the Olivia she thought she knew. She was different. Her usual pristine, composed appearance was gone. In its place was something darker, something colder. Her eyes locked onto Emma's with an intensity that made Emma step back instinctively, her breath shallow. Olivia's lips twisted into a faint, almost imperceptible smile, but it wasn't a smile of warmth, it was one of possession, of power. You've been asking the wrong questions, Emma, Olivia said, her voice icy. This was never about the dress. She had to find Rachel. She had to know if her friend was all right. The darkness felt suffocating, the quiet only amplifying the sound of her breath as she hurried down the street. As she reached the corner of the block, she froze. In the distance, she saw a figure, a silhouette standing still, watching her. It was too far away to make out any details, but Emma could feel her blood run cold. Whoever it was, they were waiting for her. She didn't stop. She turned and sprinted back toward her house, fear now taking over her every movement. She could hear footsteps behind her, and the more she ran, the louder they became. They were getting closer. Whoever had been watching her wasn't just observing anymore, they were coming after her. Emma burst through the front door, slamming it shut behind her, her breath ragged as she locked the deadbolt. Her hands shook violently as she scanned the room. She was alone. No sign of anyone following her, but she knew it didn't matter. They were out there. They were watching. And then, as if to prove her fears right, her phone buzzed again. A single text message, chillingly simple. "You're not alone anymore, Emma. You never have been." Her skin crawled as she read the words. She wasn't sure what was more terrifying, the fact that someone had been watching her all this time, or the fact that she hadn't even noticed. The tension in her chest was unbearable now. Emma wanted to scream, to break down and cry, but she couldn't afford to. There was no time for fear, no time for panic. She had to act. But where could she turn for answers when everyone around her seemed like a suspect? Who could she trust? Was there anyone she could turn to, or was she truly alone in this nightmare? The urgency, the rising sense of danger, hung in the air like a storm about to break. Emma had no choice but to fight back, but she had no idea who she was even fighting against. The house was silent. The kind of silence that felt unnatural, like it was pressing in from all sides, suffocating the air with an unspoken tension. Emma paced the floor, her thoughts swirling in a vortex of confusion and fear. She had barely gotten a wink of sleep since that strange knock at the door, since the cryptic messages began flooding her phone. Every possible explanation she'd entertained seemed to fall apart as soon as she looked deeper. She thought she knew what was happening, that someone was messing with her, maybe even trying to scare her into submission. But now, with every new twist and turn, her certainty was dissolving. Something bigger, something more sinister was at play here, and Emma was caught in the middle of it. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden ring from her phone. Emma's heart skipped a beat, her fingers trembling as she picked it up. It was Rachel. For the first time in hours, her heart felt like it had finally found something to latch onto. Her friend was alive, she was safe. At least, that's what Emma hoped. The call picked up, but what came next was far from what Emma expected. "Emma, I need you to listen to me," Rachel's voice came through, shaky and strained. There was something different in her tone, something Emma had never heard before. It was like Rachel was holding back tears, or maybe fear. "I don't know how to say this, but I think I've been part of this from the very beginning. And I've been lying to you." Emma froze. The words didn't make sense. What was Rachel talking about? She had to have misunderstood. Rachel, the person she trusted most in the world, was involved. But why? What was she hiding? The shock made Emma's stomach lurch, but she steadied herself, forcing her voice to stay calm, even as panic clawed at her insides. "What do you mean you've been lying? Rachel, what is going on? Who's behind all of this?" Emma asked, her voice tight with tension. There was a long pause before Rachel spoke again, the words coming out in a slow, reluctant breath. It's my sister, Emma. Olivia. She's been planning all of this for months. The dress, the messages, the threats, it's all been orchestrated by her. I don't know everything, but I do know this much. She's been using me, manipulating me the entire time. And now, she's involved in something much bigger. Something dangerous. Emma's mind raced, trying to process what Rachel was saying. Olivia? Her sister? It didn't make sense. Olivia had always been the golden child, the one who seemed to have it all together. The idea that she was behind the chaos Emma had been facing was unfathomable. But Rachel's voice, the desperation in it, made Emma realize that maybe she had been wrong about everything. All this time, she'd thought she knew who the villain was, who was trying to sabotage her life. But it wasn't just one person, this was a carefully crafted game, and the stakes were much higher than she could have imagined. "You're telling me Olivia planned this?" Emma's voice barely reached a whisper, the weight of the revelation crashing down on her. "But why? What does she want?" "I don't know the full picture," Rachel replied, her voice trembling. "But I think she's been in contact with people we don't know. There's something happening that goes far beyond just a missing dress or petty revenge. Emma, I'm scared. I think Olivia's caught up in something. I don't even know how to explain it. But I know she's not the person you think she is." The words hit Emma like a tidal wave, leaving her breathless. Rachel had been in on this. She had known all along and hadn't told Emma. But more than that, if Olivia was behind everything, if she was orchestrating this twisted game, then what had Emma truly been fighting against? A missing dress? Or something darker, more calculated? Everything about the situation suddenly felt different, like she had been playing checkers while everyone else was playing chess. Emma tried to think, tried to find some logical thread, but it was like the pieces kept slipping away. And just as she was about to respond, there was a knock at the door. Emma's blood ran cold. It wasn't the same soft knock from before, it was more insistent, demanding. She knew, deep down, that whoever was on the other side wasn't there to chat. This was it. The tension had reached its peak, and whatever was about to happen next was going to change everything. "Emma, don't answer the door," Rachel said urgently, her voice cracking through the static of the phone line. "Listen to me. You're in danger. There's more going on than just Olivia." But it was too late. The door swung open on its own, and standing in the frame was not just a figure from the shadows, but someone Emma recognized. Her heart stopped. It was Olivia. But not the Olivia she thought she knew. She was different. Her usual pristine, composed appearance was gone. In its place was something darker, something colder. Her eyes locked onto Emma's with an intensity that made Emma step back instinctively, her breath shallow. Olivia's lips twisted into a faint, almost imperceptible smile, but it wasn't a smile of warmth, it was one of possession, of power. "You've been asking the wrong questions, Emma," Olivia said, her voice icy. "This was never about the dress. This was never about revenge. You were never supposed to find out what's really going on." Emma's pulse raced, her mind a blur of confusion and terror. She couldn't process the reality of what was unfolding in front of her. The pieces she'd been holding onto for so long, the dress, the mysterious texts, Rachel's strange behavior, none of it made sense anymore. It was all connected, but not in the way she'd thought. "Olivia, what are you talking about?" Emma's voice wavered, the fear in her chest growing into something suffocating. "What is all of this? What are you involved in?" Olivia's smile deepened, and she took a step forward, her presence suddenly overwhelming. "You really don't know, do you? You've been chasing the wrong trail, Emma. But now you've found me. And now, the real game begins." As Olivia's words hung in the air, Emma felt a chill race down her spine. It wasn't just a game, it was something else. Something dangerous. And Emma was standing in the eye of it, completely unprepared for what was about to come. Before Emma could react, Olivia's hand moved swiftly, reaching into her coat pocket and pulling out a small, shiny object. It was a key that Emma didn't recognize, but the way Olivia was holding it, it felt important. She could feel the weight of it in the air, the promise of something even darker behind it. And just like that, everything Emma thought she knew about the mystery, the missing dress, the cryptic messages, the strange threats, shattered into a million pieces. It wasn't what it seemed. It was worse. And the person she trusted most, the one she never thought would betray her, had been the mastermind all along. The truth was darker, deeper, and more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. And she was standing at the edge of it, with no way of knowing how far down the rabbit hole went. The house felt like it was closing in on Emma, the walls pressing against her with every breath she took. Olivia stood before her, that cold, calculated smile still playing on her lips, but there was no warmth behind it. Just something sharp, something that cut through the air like a blade. Emma could barely think, her mind spinning as she tried to make sense of what she was hearing. Her sister, her own flesh and blood, was behind the twisted web of lies and fear that had consumed her life for weeks. But it was more than that. It was the look in Olivia's eyes, the unsettling way she held herself, like she was in control of everything. Emma felt a deep, gnawing terror settle in her stomach. It wasn't just the mystery anymore, it was the fact that she had been living in a nightmare, one that she didn't even understand yet. "Why, Olivia?" Emma managed to choke out, her voice a mixture of disbelief and raw emotion. "Why would you do this to me? You're my sister, I trusted you. I thought you were the one person I could count on, and now you're doing this." Olivia's gaze didn't falter, it only grew colder. "Trust, Emma. Trust is for fools." Her voice was even, almost calm, as if what she was saying was perfectly rational. "I didn't ask for you to trust me. You never understood what I was trying to protect. What I had to protect." Emma's mind raced, her heart pounding in her chest. Protect? What was Olivia talking about? She couldn't wrap her head around it. Her sister had manipulated her, used her, put her through hell, all for what? What could possibly be worth all of this destruction? What are you protecting? What's going on here? Emma asked, the desperation in her voice clear now. You've been playing this sick game for months, hurting people, scaring me. Why? What's the end goal, Olivia? Olivia's smile deepened, but there was no warmth in it. She took a slow step forward, closing the distance between them. The truth, Emma, is that you've been too blind to see it. Too selfish to realize how big this all is. And now, you've crossed the line. You're involved, whether you want to be or not. Crossed the line? Emma repeated, her breath catching. She felt like the floor had been ripped out from under her, leaving her to fall into a deep, dark chasm of confusion. What are you talking about? You're asking the wrong questions, Olivia said, almost pityingly, as though Emma were just a child, unable to grasp the complexities of the world around her. You think this is about a dress, or some petty revenge. It's bigger than that. It's about survival. And if you want to survive, you need to make a choice. A choice. Emma felt the air leave her lungs. She wanted to argue, to demand more answers, but her heart was pounding too loudly in her chest. She could hear her own thoughts screaming, but they couldn't break through the chaos Olivia had created in her mind. Olivia was playing a game, but what were the stakes? What did she have to lose? I'm giving you an ultimatum, Olivia continued, her voice low and steady, almost like she was delivering a lecture. You walk away, forget everything, and leave it all behind, or you dig deeper. But if you choose to dig, if you choose to get involved any further, the consequences won't just affect you, Emma. They'll affect everyone around you. People you love. People you care about. Her eyes narrowed, her expression darkening. I'm giving you a way out, but you have to choose now. It felt like a punch to the gut. Emma's breath hitched, and she took an involuntary step back, trying to process what Olivia was saying. Walk away. Forget everything. Was that even an option? It didn't feel real. But then again, none of this felt real. The idea of abandoning the search for the truth, of turning her back on everything that had happened, made her stomach churn. How could she? The lies, the manipulation, how could she just walk away? How could she just let Olivia continue with whatever twisted plan she had going on? But Olivia's warning rang in her ears, growing louder with every passing second. If Emma chose to keep going, if she chose to pursue the truth, who would be hurt in the process? Who would Olivia target next? Her heart ached at the thought of the people she loved getting caught in this mess, her friends, her family, anyone who might have inadvertently gotten dragged into this web. Was it worth it? Was the truth worth the potential destruction it could bring? As if on cue, Emma's phone buzzed again. It was Rachel. The name on the screen almost felt like a lifeline, a way out of the darkness that Olivia had cast over her. But when she answered, Rachel's voice came through in a frantic, almost panicked whisper. Emma, don't listen to her. Whatever she's telling you, don't trust her. She's lying. She's using you, and she's not who you think she is. You have to get out of there. You need to get away from her. Emma's mind spun, the weight of Rachel's warning sinking in. Everything Rachel had said about Olivia, everything Emma had tried to dismiss as paranoia, was suddenly ringing true. Could she trust Rachel now? Or was Rachel caught in Olivia's game as well? But if Rachel was right, if Olivia truly was the mastermind behind this, then what did that mean for Emma's next move? Torn between the truth and the safety of the ones she loved, Emma felt the burden of the decision press down on her chest. Olivia stood before her, her stance unyielding, the choice laid out in front of her like a cruel test. Walk away, leave it all behind, and be safe, or keep fighting for the truth, knowing it could cost her everything. Her heart pounded in her chest as she looked at Olivia, then glanced back down at her phone, the message from Rachel still lingering on the screen. Olivia's eyes watched her, sharp and calculating, waiting for her to make her move. And Emma knew that whatever choice she made next, it would be the one that defined the rest of her life. No matter which path she took, the consequences would be far-reaching, and once she made her decision, there would be no turning back. The silence hung thick in the room, broken only by the sound of Emma's own racing heart. And as she opened her mouth to speak, to make the impossible choice, everything changed again. A loud crash from outside the house shattered the tension, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps, heavy and deliberate, approaching from the back. Someone else was here. Someone who wasn't supposed to be. And Emma realized, with a sickening twist in her gut, that the stakes had just been raised to a level she couldn't have possibly anticipated. The crash came from the back of the house, violent and sudden, like the sound of glass shattering, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Emma's heart skipped a beat, her body locking in place as the weight of the situation pressed down on her chest. Olivia didn't flinch. In fact, she barely reacted at all, as though the sound was an expected part of the chaos unfolding around them. But for Emma, it was the catalyst. The warning shot. Everything she thought she knew about this mess, about her sister, about Rachel, about the messages, the threats, the dress, was suddenly too small, too insignificant in the face of what was really happening. Before she could even process the noise, footsteps rang out, heavy, deliberate, as they approached the front door. Emma's pulse thundered in her ears, and she instinctively moved toward the door, her mind racing. But Olivia's voice, cool and emotionless, stopped her in her tracks. "It's too late to run, Emma," she said, her eyes locked onto her with an eerie calm. "You should have listened. But now, it's all coming together, whether you like it or not." Emma's breath was coming in short, panicked gasps. "What the hell is going on, Olivia? Who's coming?" Olivia's lips curled into that same cold smile. "I told you, this is bigger than you. Bigger than me. Bigger than anyone you know. You've stumbled into something that's been in motion for years. You're just a pawn, and now, you've pushed too far. But I'm not the one you should be worried about. You should be worried about them. Them." The word hung in the air like a death sentence, each syllable more suffocating than the last. The steps outside grew louder, closer, and Emma's stomach churned as realization hit her. She wasn't just dealing with Olivia. This wasn't some petty family drama or personal vendetta. This was something far darker, something far more dangerous than she could have imagined. Then it hit her, the final piece she had been blind to this whole time. Rachel. She thought Rachel had been a victim, a co-conspirator, but what if Rachel was more than that? What if Rachel had been in on it from the start? What if she had been manipulating Emma, using her to get closer to whatever twisted goal they had? The thought sent a jolt of icy fear through her veins. She couldn't trust anyone anymore. Not even her own family. Not even her own friends. But just as the thought of Rachel's betrayal began to sink in, the door flew open, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. Standing in the doorway was not just one person, but a group, 4, maybe 5 figures, all wearing dark clothing, their faces obscured by masks. They weren't here to talk. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to finish what Olivia had started. "Emma," one of them said, their voice muffled by the mask. "We need to have a conversation. And this time, it's not going to be a friendly one." Emma's blood ran cold as she stepped back, her mind racing. Who were these people? Why were they here? What did they want from her? But before she could process it all, Olivia stepped forward, her hand resting on Emma's shoulder, too calm, too collected for the chaos unfolding around them. "You didn't think you could get out of this, did you?" Olivia's voice was almost sweet, like a warning. "You've been digging around in places you shouldn't. You've uncovered things that were never meant to be uncovered. And now, you're going to have to deal with the consequences." The group didn't move yet, but Emma could feel their eyes on her, weighing her, judging her. She was trapped, cornered, and the only escape she could see was in the truth, whatever that was. But with the way the walls were closing in, Emma felt like time was running out, like every second that passed was one step closer to the end of the line. "You don't have to do this," Emma said, her voice trembling as she tried to regain some sense of control, but it felt futile. "I don't know what you're involved in, but I'm not part of whatever this is. I didn't sign up for any of this." Olivia's smile never faltered. "Oh, but you already are, Emma. You have been for a long time. You just didn't realize it. This was always about you. Always about controlling the narrative, manipulating the players. And now, you're at the center of it all. You can't back out now. Not unless you want to see everything you love get destroyed." The words stung, cutting deep into Emma's heart. She could hear the threats, the veiled promises of destruction, but there was something else in Olivia's voice. Something colder, something more sinister that made Emma's blood run colder than she thought possible. This wasn't just a game. This wasn't about the dress. This wasn't about revenge. This was about power. Control. And Emma had been nothing but a pawn in it all. Her mind was a blur, her thoughts spinning out of control. Betrayal. Lies. Manipulation. Everything she thought she knew had been shattered, and now, she had to make a choice. The kind of choice no one should have to make. Could she trust Olivia, or was she too far gone, too deeply embedded in this conspiracy? Should she fight back, risk everything to uncover the truth, or should she surrender, accept the consequences, and try to save what was left of her life? A voice broke through her thoughts, a voice she hadn't expected to hear, one that made her freeze in place. It was Rachel.